back at me. I flicked my eyebrows up to say, I win. He shrugged. Patrick continued, and then finally it was time for the introductions. Isaac, perhaps you'd like to go first today. I know you're facing a challenging time. Yeah, Isaac said. I'm Isaac, I'm 17, and it's looking like I have to get surgery in a couple weeks, after which I'll be blind. Not to complain or anything, because I know a lot of us have it worse, but yeah, I mean, being blind does sort of suck. My girlfriend helps, though, and friends like Augustus. He nodded toward the boy, who now had a name. So, yeah, Isaac continued. There's nothing you can do about it. We're here for you, Isaac, Patrick said. Let Isaac hear it, everybody. And then we all, in a monotone, said, We're here for you, Isaac. Michael was next. He was 12. He had leukemia. He'd always had leukemia. There were 5 others before they got to him. He smiled a little when his turn came. His voice was low, smoky, and dead sexy. My name is Augustus Waters, he said. I'm 17. I had a little touch of osteosarcoma about 1.5 years ago, but I'm just here today at Isaac's request. And how are you feeling? Asked Patrick. Oh, I'm grand. Augustus Waters smiled with the corner of his mouth. I'm on a roller coaster that only goes up, my friend. When it was my turn, I said, my name is Hazel. I'm 16, thyroid with mets in my lungs. I'm okay. The hour proceeded apace. Fights were recounted, battles won amid wars sure to be lost. Hope was clung to, families were both celebrated and denounced. Neither Augustus Waters nor I spoke again until Patrick said, Augustus, perhaps you'd like to share your fears with the group. My fears? Yes. I fear oblivion, he said without a moment's pause. I fear it like the proverbial blind man who's afraid of the dark. Too soon, Isaac said, cracking a smile. Oh, is that insensitive? Augustus asked. I'm really sorry. I can be so blind to other people's feelings. Isaac was laughing, but Patrick raised a chastening finger and said, Augustus, please, let's return to you and your struggles. You said you fear oblivion? I did, Augustus said. Patrick seemed lost. Would anyone like to speak to that? I hadn't been in proper school in 3 years. My parents were my 2 best friends. My 3rd best friend was an author who did not know I existed. I was a fairly shy person, not the hand-raising type. And yet, just this once, I decided to speak. I looked over at Augustus Waters, who looked back at me. You could almost see through his eyes, they were so blue. There will come a time, I said, when all of us are dead. All of us. There will come a time when there are no human beings remaining to remember that anyone ever existed or that our species ever did anything. There will be no one left to remember Aristotle or Cleopatra, let alone you. Everything that we did and built and wrote and thought and discovered will be forgotten, and all of this will have been for nothing. Maybe that time is coming soon, and maybe it's millions of years away. But even if we survive the collapse of the sun, we won't survive forever. There was time before organisms experienced consciousness, and there will be time after. And if the inevitability of that oblivion worries you, I encourage you to ignore it. God knows that's what everyone else does. I'd learned this from my aforementioned 3rd best friend, Peter Van Houten, the reclusive author of An Imperial Affliction, the book that was as close a thing as I had to a Bible. Peter Van Houten was the only person I'd ever come across who seemed to A, understand what it's like to be dying, and B, not have died. After I finished, there was quite a long period of silence as I watched a smile spread all the way across Augustus's face. Not the crooked little smile of the boy trying to be sexy while he stared at me, but his real smile, too big for his face. Well, the money is much better than it was before. That's nice. It's nice to have people come to your readings. When I first started doing this, no one came to my readings, and that can be quite sad.
A particular sad moment?
Yeah, sure.
Which one was that?
Well, the first like big reading that I really pushed on the internet and even to my friends was in this suburb of Chicago, and only 2 people came, and I read,
including yourself?
No, but one of the 2 was my boss, but she pretended not to know who I was, so that it would seem like there were 2 real people there. And I read this part of the story that, because I'd already planned my reading and I was very nervous, so I read this part of the story in which the boy who's telling the story has a going away party for himself and only 2 people go. And it was supposed to be sad, but it was very unintentionally funny, and both of the 2 people laughed at me. And then in the car on the way back, I got in the car with my wife. My wife was the 3rd person, I didn't count her. I got in the car with my wife, and my wife said, the first thing she said was, that was very bad. So it was nice to just have someone acknowledge that it had indeed been quite bad.
Immer weiter dasselbe Buchlas, wenn ich einen großen Teil meiner Reichlichen seid damit verbracht, über den Tod nachzudenken.